G'day guys, it's Josh here from CyclonesOZ, and this is your detailed Australia-wide weather forecast update for July 17th, 2026. And we've got a bit to talk about today, including low pressure on our eastern states continuing to deliver downpours and storms to the Brisbane region, as well as some significant rainfall expected across Western Australia. We'll also talk about this upcoming very significant dry period that's expected to envelop across southern Australia throughout the remainder of the month and what this means for farmers. But first, a very special thing this morning. We got this in the mail yesterday. This is the YouTube Silver Creator Plaque, and they present it to creators that have more than 100,000 followers on here. And thanks to all of you that have followed in the last 2 years, we have received this here at CyclonesOZ. And I say we because even though it's just me making these videos and the content here, it's because of all of you. Every day when you show up in my comment section, and every day when you say thank you for the forecast and pass on your words of encouragement and words of appreciation, I really do appreciate it. And it brings me back every single morning to make these weather forecast updates 7 days a week, 30 days a month, 365 days a year. I couldn't do without you. And again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Let's get stuck straight into the weather forecast right now. Dominated by high pressure in the southeast, we'll touch on that in just a second. I'm more interested in this area of low pressure here beginning to develop around the Norfolk Island area. We've got a lot of cloud activity here beginning to develop around this area of low pressure that's slowly getting sacked together throughout the course of today. And you can see that southeasterly flow here being sent up in towards northeastern New South Wales and southeastern Queensland. Quite a few thunderstorms and downpours associated with it. We've actually seen some respectable rainfall accumulations already through northeastern New South Wales, and some great falls onto the outer islands adjacent to Brisbane. In fact, a couple of PWSs have copped more than 115 millimetres. So I was correct in expecting these outer islands to collect some significant falls, and they certainly have done that. Unfortunately, though, that's kind of where the good news ends. The rest of this is mostly bad news because it's all cold, miserable air that's being pushed in towards the region with not much in the way of rainfall associated with it. So currently we've got sustained winds here between that sort of 30 to 40 kilometres an hour. In fact, they're expected to increase to about 50 k's an hour throughout the course of today, and wind gusts certainly are starting to get up there. As this low pressure system begins to materialise properly, we are expecting wind gusts to increase to about 70 or 80 kilometres tonight into early tomorrow morning here, adjacent to the New South Wales northeast coast and into portions of southeastern Queensland as well. They're out of the south, which means showers are going to be running parallel to the coastline, and we've talked about this before. When they're running parallel, they're not expected to penetrate inland, they're just expected to graze the coast and bring a couple of spots of patchy rainfall here and there, but it will certainly work to lower the temperatures through northeastern New South Wales and southeastern Queensland, so rug up and prepare for a stint of woolly weather. It'd be similar to yesterday through today, tomorrow, and then out towards Sunday. The low pressure system is expected to be at its strongest and I guess most potent. I use that term very loosely here through tomorrow night and into early Sunday morning, and you can see here peak wind gusts are expected to be around that 90 to 95 kilometre an hour mark. Severe weather warnings have already been raised for Lord Howe Island and Norfolk Island. I doubt severe weather warnings will be raised for southeastern Queensland and northeastern New South Wales, but if they do, they will be for brief stints of damaging wind gusts coming through with passing showers. You can see as the upper trough kind of weakens off, the influence of an upper trough is very much there throughout the course of today, and that's why you're still seeing a lot of heavy showers and thunderstorms associated with this weather system, despite the low pressure system haven't properly formed yet. But as you push things out towards tomorrow afternoon and evening, you can actually see the rainfall begins to ease back slightly, and that's because the upper trough begins to pull away. So that broad level ascent and instability that we see brought in with those upper level troughs and surface troughs beginning to move off, you can see here that does result in a reduction of showers, and a pretty significant reduction at that. So drier from tomorrow night and into early Sunday. Doesn't mean the rain is going to stop, but it will ease back significantly. And you can see, in fact, on the Queensland side of things, very little in the way of rainfall is expected, particularly after about Saturday night and into early Sunday morning. The low pressure system falls apart pretty quickly through Sunday afternoon, then pulls up towards the north, and you can see by Monday, whilst we do have that cold southeasterly flow over the region, a much finer and calmer period of weather is expected to envelop across the region. This means those southeasterly winds will continue to bring those cooler temperatures and that wind chill factor ashore, but overall conditions and the weather is expected to become a lot more pleasant and tolerable as high pressure systems begin to nose into the region. And you can see very little in the way of rainfall expected throughout the remainder of the week, although we still have a couple of areas of coastal rainfall potential here, with high pressure of course still being the dominant force. And that's one thing that we'll talk about not only tomorrow in the El Nino update, but also in future forecast updates, is because we've got these massive amplitude high pressure systems over the southeast, and their anticyclonic rotation means that we are going to continue to see onshore-based winds here through northeastern New South Wales and southeastern Queensland. So if you are new to the channel, this actually means, despite the drier picture expected inland, a much wetter period of weather is expected to develop here through southeastern Queensland and northeastern New South Wales. Now, whilst total rainfall accumulations aren't that much above the average, the amount of rain days and the amount of rainy weather that we have seen, particularly through northeastern New South Wales in the last 3 months, is off the charts. And I'm sure everybody will testify to this in the comment section down below. The rainy weather is just getting relentless at this point in time. It's actually starting to get quite concerning to those that really need to dry out. Of course, if this rainy weather does continue through August and into September, and then we begin to see our wet season systems sink down, that's a massive concern because it will take a lot less rainfall than usual to flood these locations. But at this point in time, really bucking the trend of what you'd expect on a traditional El Nino event, but something that we've accurately identified thanks to warm water here offshore from New South Wales and Queensland, and these massive mid-latitude blocking high pressure systems here positioned over New South Wales and Victoria, favouring the onslaught of shower and thunderstorm activity here through this region of Australia. So this is something we'll continue to see, hang around for the next couple of weeks and months. A trough begins to develop across the backbone of Queensland here around next weekend. This has a little bit of forecast model support, but it is pretty loose at this point in time. You can see the GFS does call for those isobars to get a little bit more kinked and closer together, and you can, if you've got really good eyesight, you can kind of see those wind streamlines here out of the east-southeast and then turning more southeasterly as they run up the western portions of Queensland. The ECMWF has a much better example of that. You can see here a proper surface trough beginning to develop down here through western central Queensland. This should allow for some rainfall to develop. An upper trough is expected to be positioned over the region towards next weekend, and at least we will see, maybe a couple of light showers here positioned over the region. It's got some forecast model support right now. You're going to see a couple of posts labeling this as a significant rainfall event, and I'm here to tell you that that's not going to happen. Now, of course, as we push out towards May, you get a couple of, you get plenty of, moist air in the upper atmosphere during April and May. Just a residual factor of the wet season. June, that moisture begins to, ease off, and that's why the rainfall events that we saw in June had a lot less rainfall than the ones that we saw in May, and by July that moisture is pretty much gone. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out here that we're in the dry season, and of course our moisture values in the atmosphere are going to be, in the toilet. 700 HPA moisture still looks okay, but the real deep-seated moisture here up to, the upper levels of the atmosphere, there's just squat, and when you're in the wet season you expect that to hang around for a little bit afterwards, but we're months away from the wet season now, and we're actually closer to next wet season than we are to the last one just gone. So that's the overcomplicated way of saying that there's not enough moisture here for a rainfall event to take hold, and as a result I'm really skeptical as to whether or not we'll see any rainfall, and if we do see any rainfall it'd be below 5mm out here through central Queensland and maybe pushing in towards northern New South Wales. Not good news, because high pressure is the dominant force right now. This massive amplitude high pressure ridge here situated over Victoria and New South Wales. This was a 1040 high yesterday and the day before over South Australia, and you can see that high pressure system here still remaining strong and dominant, not going anywhere through today and into this weekend, and it's only going to be early next week when this high pressure ridge finally begins to ease off a little bit and then begins to pull out into the Tasman Sea here. You can see it kind of fragments off a little bit through Tuesday and into Wednesday and pushes out towards New Zealand. Normally between these high pressure systems, we'd see a bit of a cold front able to, sneak up towards the north here and bring a little bit of rainfall to southeastern Australia. We do see that to some degree. You can see here a weak cold front pushing through and around the middle portions of next week, but this is very light and, weak in nature, particularly for mid-July here. And it's really only going to be the western coast of Tassie that sees any meaningful rainfall from this cold front here that pushes up. And very quickly behind that cold front, another very large and strong dominant area of high pressure noses into the region to finish off next week and pushes out towards next weekend. And this system here hangs around for the foreseeable future here for the remainder of the reliable forecasting period and inhibits any sort of rainfall here across southeastern Australia. All of this to say is it is about to get very dry across southeastern Australia, and it really is only the end of July where we begin to see a bit of a return to rainfall here across portions of the southeast. And whilst this picture does look quite impressive, let me remind you that this is the bottom of the scale in terms of rainfall estimates here. You're talking about rainfall accumulations on a daily basis here between 1 and 5mm, slightly heavier down around where this low pressure system is expected to take hold, and you can pretty much disregard this band of rainfall here because it doesn't have any moisture associated with it nosing in towards this region. So this is overcomputed here, or overcomputed on the forecast models, and I don't think that New South Wales is going to see the widespread rain that this forecast is depicting. And what that means is the rest of July is expected to be very, very dry. At least the next 10 days, you can see here, 10-day rainfall accumulations are abysmal across southeastern Australia. I mean, most of South Australia remains bone dry, calm and collected under the influence of high pressure. The wettest spot here on this map is Ceduna with 3.6 millimeters. Victoria is in, believe it or not, a worse position here with the pretty much entirety of the state here, apart from the far southern coast on the Great Ocean Road, seeing less than 5 millimeters of rainfall. Western coast of Tassie still in that roaring 40 flow, so they're going to continue to see good rainfall here, but it doesn't cross those central highlands, which means places such as Hobart and the east coast, where the people actually live, are expected to be quite dry, less than 10 mils expected there. And again, through rural New South Wales, forget about it. Most of the rainfall up here into the northeast is going to fall in the next couple of days, or has already fallen already, so very limited in the way of rainfall expected up in those regions. And whilst it still looks like rain is going to continue to fall, I'm here to tell you that over the next 10 days, whatever rain does fall is going to be very light, and it's going to miss our key growing regions, and this is quite a concern that we'll talk about in tomorrow's forecast update. If we look at the drought monitoring map here, and again I'll go into great detail with this tomorrow, you can see soil moisture values right now do look pretty healthy here through portions of, outback New South Wales and portions of northern Victoria, most of South Australia from recent rainfall in May, June and somewhat recently. But as we pull this out towards the end of the forecast period, you can see a big expanse of drier conditions expected to envelop here across most of rural New South Wales, as well as most of rural and agricultural Victoria and portions of South Australia. South Australia will take a lot longer to kind of see these much more severe drought conditions develop, but they are coming, they're just around the corner, and this rainfall, whilst it's not going to stop completely, it is about to reduce very, very quickly in its quantity coming through. Southwestern WA, well, the forecast last night was much better than I expected, that's for sure. I mean, we had some great rainfall push through into the southwestern portions of WA, including into the Perth metro area and the southern suburbs. In fact, my weather gauge has about 20 mils in it right now, which is about what I expected, but a persistent line of thunderstorms over the Mandurah suburb area. We saw some really significant rainfall accumulations around Mandurah. 43 mils is the official tally for Mandurah, but a couple of PWS has got around the 60 to 70 millimeter mark. Very healthy rainfall, particularly for this time of the year in those regions indeed. We also had a couple of reports of embedded supercells around the southwestern coast, particularly between Mandurah up to Lancelin. Signs of rotation in a couple of these storms as well, which means a few waterspouts no doubt touched down offshore into the regions just offshore from southwestern WA. And the good news is more rainfall expected today. So a few passing showers are expected throughout this morning into the Perth metro area, but the rainfall is expected to return tonight, and this is where the focus shifts towards the north of Perth. Another cold front is going to nose in, and that forcing motion here with those cold fronts, that wedging activity that I've talked about before, that cold fronts push through ahead of them, is going to generate plenty of convection and thunderstorm activity in an unstable environment here across the northern areas of Perth up to about Geraldton and Kalbarri. And this means a widespread pocket of rainfall is going to slowly increase throughout today into this afternoon and into this evening for locations such as Greenhead, Dongara, Port Denison, Cervantes, Lancelin, Jurien Bay, and then inland to places such as Mora, Dalwallinu, Killarney, and maybe around Inibiaba and out towards Perenjori, for example, or Perenjori, I believe that's how you say it. So some widespread rainfall here, and it could be quite heavy at times. Likely to be at its heaviest here between Jurien Bay up to about Geraldton. We talked about it with tropical cyclones before, but because this is going to be coming in at an angle here, almost parallel to the coastline, it's going to be very difficult to bullseye exactly where that rainfall is expected. It could be anywhere between Geraldton down to Jurien Bay, but where this hits, it's going to hit quite hard, and we are expecting some moderate to locally heavy falls. Now, I am on notice to drive up to the Moor or the Hill River here, just in case we do see some flooding. I'll be covering it on the ground, but it certainly looks like some pretty prolific rainfall is expected in this region. We could be seeing some flooding, so please do take care of driving around later tonight into tomorrow morning. And if you do live in those flood-watched catchments such as the Moor or the Hill River, please do take care, because flooding is, whilst it is uncommon, it does occur. The convective allowing forecast models are, going all out here for rainfall just towards the south of Geraldton. Some very significant rainfall accumulations are being depicted by the convective allowing models here. So places such as Port Denison and Greenhead, looking at some very significant falls around that sort of 50 to 100 millimeter mark, and great rainfall expected further inland as well, about as far inland as Dalwallinu and Mora, looking at about 20 mils or so. I do believe at this point in time the Moor River will be slightly too far south to receive any of this good rainfall. And again, for the Perth metro area and the Perth Peel region, forget about it. There's not much in the way of heavy rainfall coming to you guys anymore. The chance was last night, so if you picked it up, great. If you missed out, that's it. And then you can see here through Saturday, rainfall begins to ease off for the most part. We will still see a couple of passing showers through Saturday. They'll be pretty quick to ease off as the day goes on. And then come Sunday, just a few more passing showers for the coastal regions up to about Perth. And then that's it. Fine weather expected to redevelop over the region. But yeah, definitely looking quite wet here just towards the south of Geraldton. There could be some pretty significant flooding in this region here. Flash and riverine flooding on the cards here as this rainfall builds up tonight. And again, that focus is going to be Geraldton down to about Jurien Bay, inland through a line here from about Moora up to Morawa. Really good falls are going to be a possibility, but they will be very concentrated in nature. So Jurien Bay could get 0, Port Denison could get 100. It really does depend on where that line and that trough does establish itself. It's a very interesting dynamic that we've got later on today. And enjoy the rain whilst it lasts. I mean, Perth, you should have enjoyed the rain last night, but there's really not an awful lot coming behind it. This is to the end of July here. 10 mils expected after this system here for the Perth metro area, and I believe that's from one frontal system coming through towards the end of next week and into the weekend. Yep, and this one here, very weak in nature, not one that's going to generate a widespread severe weather event here. Yeah, this is not good news. Very, very bad news, particularly for those in the wheat belt that do desperately need some rainfall. And that was the problem with the rainfall last night, was it was so patchy in nature. When it hit, it was excellent, and it was great rainfall for the gauges out there, but it wasn't enough to get those rivers flowing or those dams topped up. It's really quite a concern what we're beginning to eke into here across southwestern WA, and I want to talk about southwestern WA in great detail in tomorrow morning's forecast update, because it is important that we really hash things out for tomorrow down in the southwest rather. That will do it though for me today. I do hope you've enjoyed this forecast update, and if you have, then please consider leaving a like and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really do appreciate all of the support lately, and again, a massive thank you. I mean, just on a personal note, of course, I haven't done this for the subscribers and the money. I actually read a very interesting post yesterday that I agree with wholeheartedly from another weather creator in the US. You don't get into weather forecasting for the money, because there's no money in it. You get into it because you love it, and then you hope you make a buck out of it at the end of the day. And I'm very fortunate that I can do this full time, and it is all thanks to you guys. I'm in a very fortunate position. But yeah, I mean, as I said, 13-year-old me would be very proud of this achievement here. It really does mean a lot to me. I've grown up in the digital age, of course, so since I was probably 8 or 9, I've been watching, my favorite YouTube creators from pretty much the start of the YouTube platform back in the early 2010s, and seeing my favorite creators get awards like this, and now finally being able to hold one in my hands here and put one in the office, all thanks to you guys. I cannot express in words alone how much that does mean to me. So thank you very, very much for all of your support in the last 2 years, to everybody that's stuck around from the beginning, everybody that's joined in the last month, and everybody that is going to subscribe today. Wink, wink, that's your cue to go and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. But a massive thank you to all of you guys, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.